All right, diving in. Deep into the Hacker News rabbit hole today. Man, you know I love this stuff.
Always a good time.
It's not just the headlines. It's like, what's the pulse? What's really getting the tech world fired up right now?
And Hacker News, it's a good filter for that. You get the developers, engineers, they're really forward-thinking folks. This is where they're looking.
It's that snapshot, right? So, October 7th, top posts, we're in the thick of it. And let me tell you, some interesting themes popping up.
Oh, yeah. One thing I noticed, just this drive for efficiency. Tools to untangle the messy stuff. Languages where every line of code packs a punch. It's everywhere.
It's like that squid.io JQ for databases. That one caught my eye. Sounds powerful, but JQ on its own.
Bit of head scratcher for some, I'm sure.
To say the least. Break it down for us. What's the deal there?
Think of it this way. You're fluent in data manipulation, right? JQ. That's your language. Elegant, but kind of lives in its own world.
Okay.
So Squid.io wants to bridge that to databases. Huge data sets, but handled with the ease of, I don't know, editing a spreadsheet.
Okay, that analogy helps. So instead of a whole toolbox, it's that one perfectly crafted tool for the job.
Exactly. And people are responding to that.
Yeah.
Then you've got fast B trees, idiomatic awk, maybe niche, but again speed, elegance in the code itself. B trees, by the way, it's how you organize data for quick searches. And fast ones, even speedier.
So is this efficiency thing just coders wanting it easier, or is there something bigger at play?
I think it's tied to how complex software is getting. Faster development, pressure to do more with more data, the perfect storm for tools that just streamline everything.
Makes total sense. And speaking of evolving landscapes, we got Talk web development.
Hacker News always has opinions, right?
Oh, absolutely. That whole Rust needs a web framework post that sparked some serious debate.
Yeah, I saw that.
Rust, speed, reliability, it's great. But it's bare bones on purpose. Gives developers tons of control, but you're building a lot from scratch.
So the question is, does adding a framework those pre-built parts for faster development, does that mess with what makes Rust special?
Exactly. Gets to the core of it. What do developers actually value? Raw speed, even if it means more work. Or is some pre-built structure the way forward?
It's that trade-off, right? Pure control or just getting things done?
And leave it to Hacker News to have strong opinions on both sides.
Always. But speaking of getting things done, Gleam is pragmatic, right? Fun of the language, yeah. But where Rust is debating the ideal, Gleam's like, hey, sometimes the best tool is the one that just works. It's about reliability, maintainability, the long game.
Different philosophies, but both pointing to this search for the perfect web dev setup. It never ends.
And that's what I love about Hacker News. It's a window into how developers are actually thinking about their tools. Not always the flashy new thing, but what solves real problems for them.
Refreshing change from the usual hype cycle, I have to say. But hey, it's not all code and algorithms in there, right? There's some love for, I don't know, where tech meets history, culture even.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the digital world, it's built on this foundation of human history and creativity, you know? And you see that reflected on Hacker News, like the Book of Kells posted, it's digitized now, available online.
Talk about a blast from the past. 9th century. For those who don't know, it's like the Mona Lisa of illuminated manuscripts. But now, anyone can explore it thanks to technology.
The power of digital humanities right there. Using tech to preserve, but also democratize access to these cultural treasures. Book of Kells is one example, but a powerful one.
Makes you wonder what other gems are out there just waiting to be brought into the digital age. Speaking of old versus new, though, that Congress fights to keep AM radio in cars, that threw me.
Bit of a head scratcher, right?
In the age of streaming, like Congress is actually debating this. I gotta know, what are the arguments?
Well, some say AM radio, it's vital for emergency broadcasts, right? Especially places with bad internet. Others, it's a lifeline for older generations, maybe not as comfortable with streaming. Then there's the whole cultural preservation angle.
Part of our history that some don't want to see disappear completely. I get that.
On the flip side, though,
it's got to be a flip side.
Some say it's like demanding cassette players in new cars. You know, technology moves on, habits change, and clinging to the past. It's like trying to hold back the tide.
It's a tough one, right? I get the nostalgia, but AM radio in the age of Spotify, podcasts, it's like what matters more, progress or holding on to the familiar? But hey, speaking of fascinating Hacker News finds, there were some real gems in there today.
Oh, for sure. And sometimes it's not even the top voted stuff. It's those quirky posts further down that get you thinking.
Like that, we'll buy back your typewriter for Uncle Sam, who knew there was a market for those anymore.
It's less about the typewriters themselves, more a commentary on e-waste. We upgrade our phones constantly, toss old laptops. Where does it all end up, right? That post, it got people thinking about the whole life cycle of our tech, the responsibility we have for it, even when it's old news.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think twice. We're so focused on the new, we forget the environmental impact of it all.
And it ties into another interesting one. Ants learned to farm fungi during a mass extinction. You might be thinking, ants, what's that got to do with tech? But stick with me, it gets cool.
Okay, now you got me curious. Lay it on me.
So these ants, facing this catastrophe, they adapted, developed this whole system for growing their own food fungi, became farmers millions of years before humans.
Never thought about ants that way? That's wild. But what's the takeaway, especially for tech?
It's about adaptability. Tech moves fast. Those who can adapt, learn from unexpected places, they thrive.
So it's not just building the next cool thing, it's building systems that can roll with the punches. Resilient, adaptable, just like those ants.
Exactly. And it reminds us, innovation can come from anywhere. We get stuck in our routines, but nature's got a ton of inspiration for solving problems.
It's like biomimicry, right? Looking to nature for design solutions.
Exactly. And honestly, it's a bit humbling. We think we're so advanced, but then you've got these tiny ants farming, collaborating, surviving for millions of years. Puts things in perspective.
We're part of something bigger, and we've got a lot to learn from the natural world, especially when it comes to sustainability resilience. So we've got typewriters, ant farmers. But it all circles back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Efficiency, adaptability, tech overlapping with the natural world.
It's all connected. That's what makes Hacker News so fascinating. It's not just ones and zeros, it's how technology weaves into everything. Our environment, our culture, the challenges we face as a society.
It's understanding the why behind the technology, the human stories behind it, the impact it has, which I think leads us perfectly to our final thoughts for today's deep dive. It's easy to get caught up in the what's next, right? The latest gadget, the new coding language. But digging into Hacker News like this, it really highlights the why behind it all.
It's the human element driving it. It's not just code. It's problem solving, pushing boundaries, even grappling with the consequences.
Which brings us to that big question we love to ask. Today, it's this. In this world of constant tech advancement, how do we balance chasing the new with preserving valuable knowledge from the past?
$1 million question, right? No easy answers. Do we cling to old tech for nostalgia, maybe fall behind? Or embrace the cutting edge, but risk losing history traditions along the way?
Makes you think about that balance, that AM radio thing. Is it nostalgia or realizing something's time has passed? But then what about cultural stuff, knowledge that disappears if we don't actively save it in this digital age?
It's tricky.
Yeah.
But I think being mindful is key. Asking ourselves, why is this new thing better? Not just assuming it is because it's new. Progress doesn't have to erase the past.
We can learn from history to build a better future, even as tech keeps changing at this crazy pace.
Exactly. And it goes back to that lesson from the ants, almost. Adapt, evolve, but don't forget the core stuff, resilience, resourcefulness, the things that got us this far.
Love it when it all connects like that. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into the Hacker News rabbit hole.